Welcome back. So recently there's been some troubling news coming out of the Black Lives Matter movement, and it is that when you decide to donate to them, you go to their website, you end up donating to Act Blue. And people have uncovered, well, what is Act Blue? They're essentially this fundraising arm for the Democrat campaign. And you can see some of their top recipients have been Bernie Sanders, Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Pete for America, Democratic Congressional Campaign, Amy for America, Friends of Andrew Yang. So you get a lot of these Democrats mixed into this whole thing when you donate to Black Lives Matter. And it just makes me wonder, what do the Democrats have to do with this whole racial police brutality movement? It seems like they're just mixing up a bunch of stuff. And so then it all started making sense to me why Nancy Pelosi was dressed up in African garbs, playing along with this movement. And if you think about it, it is an election year after all, so isn't it strange that the timing just so happens to be that seems like every time Black Lives Matter comes up, the last time was around 2016, it always seems to be this election year. And so somebody here says, you guys, Democrats quite literally used George Floyd's death to emergency fundraise for Joe Biden's campaign, and that it was all just a scam. And so even if you were to look more deeply into this a few days ago, Kaylee Scales, who's the managing director for Black Lives Matter, did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and people are asking, where does the money go? What do you use it for? And she never replied. She never answered a single question about it, and people are saying this is really weird. And you can see here, there's another question. Okay, they're getting millions and millions of dollars in donations, right? Tons of people are funding them, and yet there's just no answer about this. And what we do know is the funds are going through Act Blue. Act Blue also happens to be this huge Democratic arm for fundraising. And the Black Lives Matter website, by the way, people have figured out that it's not even a registered 501c3 nonprofit. They're a private corporation. It's not a charity. And so I want to take a moment here to clarify my political stance, which is that I am neither Republican nor Democrat. I don't even care. I don't vote. I'm more nihilistic, actually. I'm like chaotic neutral. And so this is the illusion of choice. You give people a little bit of choice between two things, Democrat or Republican. At the end of the day, you're still funneling power into white supremacy organizations, right? Congress is mostly composed of white people. And so here's my hypothesis. Maybe the whole BlackLivesMatter.com website, that domain, was bought out by the Democrats. And every election year, they find some civil unrest and they use this as a way to gain support from the black community in order to vote Democrat. And then this organization, which some people say is funded by billionaire George Soros, fans the flames. They cause civil unrest, create protests, just cause general discontent so that people are unhappy with the current situation, and then their ultimate goal is propaganda. Now, as I was taking a look at this whole Black Lives Matter website, I also saw that if you check out their What We Believe section, there's so many other issues that are being mixed into this. So for example, people say that this movement is against fathers, against traditional families. On their website, they say we disrupt the Western prescribed nuclear family structure by supporting each other as extended families and villages that collectively care for one another, especially our children, to the degree that mothers and parents are comfortable. Well, nowhere in this sentence does it say father. In fact, they seem to intentionally exclude that word as if you don't really need fathers in society anymore. For some strange reason, this movement is also being mixed in with the whole LGBTQ community. They say, we foster a queer affirming network. When we gather, we do so with the intention of freeing ourselves from the tight grip of heteronormative thinking. Abortion is mixed into this as well. They say we deserve it and thus we demand reproductive justice, i.e. abortion that gives us autonomy over our bodies. And so the issue is, some people think this is a police brutality issue, or maybe it's even a race issue. So they donate money to the movement, and in the process, they start supporting all of these other side movements like the Democrat Party, anti-fathers, abortion, homosexuality, and a bunch of other stuff that really has nothing to do with this whole issue. The Black Lives Matter movement has essentially been co-opted by all of these other agendas. Now, while I'm on this topic, I also wanted to highlight some other disturbing news. The other day, protesters, they toppled some Confederate statue and it landed on somebody's head, and that person got critically injured. They started convulsing. You could see their skull. It's really ridiculous and tragic. And these protesters and rioters, they're no better than the police. They're damaging public property. They're causing real physical damage to each other. There's a way in which you can have a protest and gain the support of the public opinion. But if you're going to protest this way, no matter how much I personally want to support the cause, I cannot support something like this. There is this other disturbing piece of news where a UCLA professor is now on leave because he did not want to postpone an exam only for students of the black community. So here's what happened. Some students asked him to give black students special treatment on the exam, And his response is, thanks for your suggestion in your email below. Given the tragedy in Minnesota, do you know the names of the classmates that are Black? How can I identify them since we're only having online exams? Are there any students that may be of mixed parentage, such as half Black, half Asian? What do you suggest I do with respect to them? A full concession or just half? And so here he's explaining that how do you even define what Black really means, right? Like we saw Elizabeth Warren, she was like 1% Native American or something, and then she claimed to be Native American. So I believe that this is a fair and logical question. And then he goes on to say, do you have any idea if any of the students are from Minneapolis? Assume they're probably especially devastated as well. I'm thinking that a white student from there may even be more devastated by this, especially because some might think that they're racist even if they're not. And so here he's saying that, well, maybe you should offer privilege based on, say, geography, say being from Minneapolis, in which you're especially struck from the recent events, than simply based on color. And that's a fair and valid question. I don't sense any racism. He's just treating all of the students the same, and he's saying that rather than try to distinguish people based on their skin color, let's take a look at their geographies if you really want to prioritize people's privileges. He says, can you guide me on how you think I should achieve a no-harm outcome since our sole course grade is from this final exam only? Remember that MLK famously said that people should not be evaluated based on the color of their skin. And then suddenly everyone said that this guy is racist, and this professor is on leave now. Which essentially is the same thing that's happening to me, right? Like I retweeted this person, Candace Owen, who's just been asking questions. Where are the funds going? People are asking questions. And then I'm being called a racist. Well, no, it's not really racist to ask a valid question like, hey, where are these funds going? That's not racist. That's simply a question that people are asking. And not only that, it's a question meant to help the Black Lives Matter community, right? Because as much as I personally am against identity politics, I don't like the idea that some people who think that they're donating for one cause end up donating to the Democrat campaign. At the end of the day, when I look at this, I think that there are two ways in which we are handling racism. There's one group who are saying that there should be affirmative action. There should be privilege awarded based on skin color to make up for all of the past occurrences and systemic bias within the system. And there could be some valid point here. There's another viewpoint, which is the viewpoint that I tend to believe that moving forward, we should not be using skin color as a classification technique, but rather just award privilege based on socioeconomic class or geography, kind of like what Professor Klein was suggesting. In this viewpoint, perhaps it's more of a naive or idealistic one, in which you don't see color, you don't focus on it, you don't classify people based on color, you don't even acknowledge skin color, you just say that there's people. You just see people, everybody is the color gray, their race is human, their ethnicity is from planet Earth. That's kind of the approach that I've been going for. So that'll do for me. I encourage you guys to get yourselves educated. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you in the next one.